Good evening. Welcome. Thank you all for joining us today evening. So nice to see all cheerful faces on a nice mid-May evening. Welcome. So nice to have all of you here. It's a real honor and pleasure to be part of this session here with BlubWorld. I'm Dr. Kuttappa, and I work with an institution called the Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham. And today evening, I thought we'll have a small discussion on leadership, and we thought we'll have a look at we begin with general existing theories for a few minutes, and then we look at some methods of how to actually calibrate leadership, how to maybe there's several methods available, but let's see if we can use one or two of these concepts and try to sort of calibrate or measure ourselves and give ourselves a sort of a path or a way in which we can probably build on it. So like I said, this is a broad discussion on leadership. There are several concepts, theories, and there are a lot of things that a lot of areas that are being talked about specific in this domain. I thought we'll have a look at where the thread really lies. I intend to lead today's discussion in under these few headings. I thought we'll spend the first 5-10 minutes on leadership, understanding what it is, its components, and we'd have a look at existing perspectives on leadership very quickly, touch on the theories that are present and how these theories are classified, so that in our own spheres, in our own areas, a lot of us do a lot of reading on leadership, and in your own areas, in your own reading, you can then pick up some of the threads from the existing perspectives and build on it in your own sphere, in your own direction. The tool that I thought we will discuss to help us self-calibrate is taken from John Maxwell's book titled The 5 Levels of Leadership. So I thought we'll take a leaf from there, and there is a self-calibration exercise that John Maxwell explains in his book. I thought I'll share that with you. Might be of help here. So going ahead, there is this small story that I've taken from Stephen Covey's 7 habits, where there's this, it begins with the story where he says that there's a group of workers and their leaders. They are set at a task of clearing a road through a dense jungle, on a remote island, to get to the coast where an estuary provides a perfect site for a port. So this group of people, they are in the middle of a dense jungle, and they are tasked with clearing a road right up to one of the corners of the island, so that there is a port that which can be set up there. So there's a group of workers and there are some leaders. The leaders organize the laborers into efficient units. They monitor their distribution and use of capital assets. Progress is excellent. Leaders continue to monitor and evaluate progress, making adjustments, and and efficiency is increased wherever possible, and so on. So basically, work is rolling. Then one day, amidst all the hustle and bustle and activity, one person climbs up a nearby tree. The person surveys the scene from the top of the tree and he shouts to the assembled group below, "Wrong way." Like I said, the story is adapted from Stephen Covey's book, and what it tries to differentiate between, he says that management is about doing things right, whereas leadership is doing the right things. Management is probably organizing yourself effectively, making sure everything is efficient, so on and so forth. Leadership entails actually climbing up that tree and seeing whether you're going in the right direction. So the quote is from Warren Bennis, and it's also highlighted in Peter Drucker's book. Leadership then. I thought I will split the discussion on leadership into the following areas. One, I thought I'll highlight very quickly what are the leadership styles that literature has shown us. Then I thought I'll talk about change leadership. A lot of this thing is being spoken of recently. I thought I'll highlight on the existing theories of leadership and then factors that affect leadership styles. Types of leadership styles are on your screen. They're not limited to just this. There are several other, there are one or two other styles also, if I may recall, that are talked about. Generally, these are the types that you'll hear. There's starting from one end of the spectrum, we're looking at autocratic leaders, then there are visionary leaders, there are affiliative leaders. Here we are slowly moving towards democratic, affiliative, and then you become democratic, and then slowly next step is where the leader sort of starts taking a back seat, where it's pace setting kind of leaders, and then there is coaching leaders. So if you see 1 and 2 are sort of I tell you the way kind of leaders. 3 and 4 are they collect way from everyone else. 5 and 6 are where the leaders are slowly starting to take a back seat. So there are several, there are existing models which talk about types of leadership. This one I felt sort of gives us a broad view of the spectrum. Change leadership, again, there are 2-3 different models that highlight change leadership or transformational leadership. Here's one model. Yeah, foundation is the people whom you are going to implement it on. The second stage talks about 3 aspects. One is communication, the right info, the right time, the right way, professional learning, establish the support for success, and then there's the environment that you create, a safe space for taking action. On top of this lies your strategy, clarifying of goals, outcomes, and success manuals, and then of course there's the vision and purpose that defines the why. Yeah? Most challenging aspect is leading and managing change. The education environment is subject to fast-paced economic and social change, especially in the last 3-4 years. Modern processes must adapt and be flexible. Yeah? Problems in leading change stem mainly from human resource management. So if you see change management, then is your bedrock or your foundation is people. Yeah, your entire change management it revolves a lot around your people management. Therefore, leaders then need to be aware of how change impacts its workers. Like I said before, the PowerPoint is just for me to ensure that the points that I'm trying to convey are there. Those of you who might miss some of the words that I say, you can see them on the screen. Next, theories of leadership. Broadly, if you look at if you study leadership in a very broad way, these are the theories that you'll see that are existing today. There's transactional, there's trait leadership, there's a great man theory and book by the same name. There's behavioral theories are there on leadership, contingency theories are there, invitational. Then, of course, the thing that's picking up steam nowadays, transformational theories of leadership. We'll very quickly look at what these are. Yeah, the aim at looking at them separately is just to sort of, those of you who have already done some reading in some of these areas, it'll just give you a direction. Yeah? It's not intended to go in depth. Transactional theories of leadership focus on the management of organization. They focus on, working to rules and contracts, procedures, efficiency. They're managing current issues and problems. You'll see a lot of this in our Fayol's, Fayol's theories, etc. His 14 principles, and then his management concepts. You see a lot of this around those years. Transactional theories then, also sort of highlight the carrot approach. There is a emphasis on maintaining status quo, short-term focus, extrinsic motivation is mostly extrinsic, and it's management by exception. Yeah, and there are contingent rewards. You do something, there is a reward for it. Yeah. Trade theories is sort of the opposite side of the spectrum. Yeah, it says the trade theory is based on this set question that are there a defined set of characteristics that determine a good leader. Yeah. So there's some traits which everyone believes are existent in any good leader. Therefore, if the person has some or all of these traits, he then becomes a good leader. What these traits are, again, different theories define different traits. Is it personality? Is it dominance and personal presence? Is it charisma, self-confidence, achievement, ability to formulate a clear vision? Yeah, you will have, if you look back, and you'll be able to identify examples for each one of these traits. Achievement, you have your Jeff Bezos and so on. If you're looking at personality, you could, usually when you look at personality, the military generals are shown as examples. If you're looking at ability to formulate a clear vision, you can look at people who have built industry from scratch. Somebody like your Infosys founders, etc., who had a clear vision, they were able to formulate a vision, so on. So you see, there are examples of this right across. Charisma, maybe your film actors, so on and so forth. So these are your trait theories. Are such characteristics inherently gender-based? Do such characteristics produce good leaders? Is leadership more than just bringing about change? Does this imply that leaders are born, not bred? Yeah. So therefore, your trait theories then kind of goes down to this the aspect where they talk about are the sort of question whether leaders then are born, they're not bred, meaning you cannot actually uh, become a leader, you're born a leader. Then there is the great man theory. It's a book of the same title, which says that great leaders are born, not made. It supports this, and it says that there are certain intrinsic leadership traits, yeah, that are in the core of the essence of leadership. Some of these traits are charisma, confidence, sociability, and intelligence. So therefore, the great man theory says that this the theories of the great man theories of leadership talks about certain intrinsic traits that leaders are born with. You have your behavioral theories. Behavioral theories imply that leaders can be trained. Here's the opposite side of the spectrum. The focus is on the way of doing things. Structure-based behavioral theories focus on leader instituting structures. Relationship-based behavioral theories focus on the development and maintenance of relationships. They are all process-oriented. Contingency theories. Leadership is being more flexible, different styles used at different times depending on circumstance. This theory suggests that leadership is not a fixed set of characteristics. It can be transposed into different contexts. Yeah. So there are here you're now coming out of traits or characteristics. You're saying that this is not a set of fixed this thing. It can be transposed into different context and different this thing. So it may depend on the type of staff that you have. It may depend on the history of the business, culture of the business, quality of relationships, nature of changes needed, accepted norms within the institution, etc. Going forward, theories of leadership. Next, we're looking at invitational leadership. Invitational leadership is focused on improving the atmosphere and the message sent out by the organization. The focus is on reducing negative messages throughout the everyday actions of business, both externally and internally. There is a lot of review on internal processes to reduce these. Focus is also on building relationships and sense of belonging and identity with the organization that gets communicated to customers. Now, coming to transformational leadership, this is sort of picking up steam nowadays. And one of the reasons that transformational leadership is picking up steam is because there's a lot of change that is coming into businesses and organizations. Therefore, this requires long-term strategic planning, clear objectives, clear vision, leading by example, and efficiency of systems and processes. So you'll see that transformational leadership is actually, building on you had your behavioral, you had your, trait theories where people said leaders are born. Then you had great man theories where people said, no, there's certain particular characteristics. Then you said, no, leaders can, behavioral theories where they said leaders can be trained. And the focus is on doing certain things in a particular way. Then there were contingency theories where you said leaders, the style of leadership or the type of leadership depends on the business culture, quality of relationships, etc. Then we came up to invitational leadership where people, the focus is on to reduce the negative messages and to actually build relationships and streamline. And then now we're talking about transformational leadership, which talks about, adapting to widespread changes in these ways. Factors affecting leadership styles. Leadership style may be dependent on various factors. One, risk. Two, type of business that you're operating in or type of environment that you're in. How important the change is, organization culture, and the nature of the task. Yeah. So there are a couple of factors that impact the leadership style. These factors, as you will see, depend on the environment that you're operating on. Before I go into this, I wanted to share a video. Yeah. So just have a look at this.
Do you love your wife? Yes. Prove it. Like, what's the metric? Give me the number that helps me know, right? Because when you met her, you didn't love her. Now you love her, right? Tell me the day the love happened. It's an impossible question. But it's not that it doesn't exist. It's that it's much easier to prove over time, right? Leadership is the same thing. It's about transition. So if you were to go to the gym, it's like exercise, right? If you go to the gym and you work out and you come back and you look in the mirror, you will see nothing. And if you go to the gym the next day and you come back and you look in the mirror, you will see nothing, right? So clearly there's no results, can't be measured, it must not be effective. So we quit, right? Or if you fundamentally believe that this is the right course of action and you stick with it, like in a relationship, I bought her flowers and I wished her happy birthday, and she doesn't love me. Clearly I'll give up. That's not what happens. If you believe there's something there, you commit yourself to an act of service. You commit yourself to the regime, the exercise. You can screw it up. You can eat chocolate cake one day. You can skip a day or two. It allows for that. But if you stick with it consistently, I'm not exactly sure what day, but I know you'll start getting into shape. I know it. And the same with the relationship. It's not about the events. It's not about intensity. It's about consistency, right? You go to the dentist twice a year, your teeth will fall out. You have to brush your teeth every day for 2 minutes. What does brushing your teeth twice a day for 2 minutes do? Nothing. Unless you do it every day, twice a day for 2 minutes, right? It's the consistency. Going to the gym for 9 hours does not get you into shape. Working out every day for 20 minutes gets you into shape. So the problem is we treat leadership with intensity. We have a 2-day offsite, we invite a bunch of speakers, we give everybody a certificate, you're a leader, right? Those things are like going to the dentist. They're very important. They're good for reminding us or getting us back on track, learning new lessons. But it's the daily practice of all the monotonous, little, boring things like brushing your teeth that matter the most. She didn't fall in love with you because you remembered her birthday and bought her flowers on Valentine's Day. She fell in love with you because when you woke up in the morning, you said good morning to her before you checked your phone. She fell in love with you because when you went to the fridge to get yourself a drink, you got her one without even asking. She fell in love with you because when you had an amazing day at work and she came home and she had a terrible day at work, you didn't say, yeah, but let me tell you about my day. You sat and listened to her awful day and you didn't say a thing about your amazing day. This is why she fell in love with you. I can't tell you exactly what day, and it was no particular thing you did. It was the accumulation of all of those little things that she woke up one day and as if she pressed a button, she goes, I love him, right? Leadership is exactly the same. There's no event. There's no thing I can tell you you have to do that your people will trust you. It just doesn't work that way. It's an accumulation of lots and lots of little things that anyone by themselves is innocuous and useless. Literally, pointless by themselves. People will look at little things that are good leadership practices and say, that won't work. And you're absolutely right. But if you do it consistently, and you do it in combination with lots of other little things, like saying good morning to someone, that looking them in the eye. My friend George, who's a 3-star general in the Marine Corps, he says his test for leadership, and I love this, he goes, his test for a good leader is if you ask somebody how their day is going, you actually care about the answer. The number of times we're walking to a meeting, we're rushing, we go, how are you? Not good, I gotta get to you later, I'm late for a meeting. Right. If you ask the question, you were standing there and you were listening to the answer. It's those little innocuous things that you do over and over and over and over that people will say, I love my job. Not I like my job. I like my job means, yeah, the challenge is great, they pay me well, I like the people. I love my job means, I don't want to work anywhere else. I don't care how much somebody else is willing to pay me. I'm devoted to the people here, and I care desperately about the people here as if they were my family. In business, we have colleagues and coworkers. In the military, they have brothers and sisters. That's how they think of each other. If you really have a strong corporate culture, the people will think of each other like brothers and sisters. It's like a family, right? No, brothers and sisters. Deep love. Fight, but the love doesn't go away. Bicker, the love doesn't go away. And I'll fight with my sister, but if you threaten my sister, you're going to have to deal with me. Right? We'll fight internally, we'll bicker with each other, but nobody's going to hurt each other. And if anything from the outside shows up, you're looking at a unified front. Brothers and sisters. Now, how do you create brothers and sisters out of strangers? Common beliefs, common values, parents, in other words, executives who care about their children's success, who care to raise their children, teach them skills, discipline them when necessary, help them build their self-confidence so that they can go on and achieve something more than you could have ever imagined achieving for yourself. That's leadership. Do you love?
I hope the video came across. I apologize if there was a crosstalk in the beginning. This video is a small video by Simon Sinek. And my idea of sharing it here today with all of you is, I felt that he was onto something, when he was trying to give us a feeling of what actually the measure of leadership is. Yeah, we actually go, and that's what I wanted to build the second stage of this discussion into. Loosely built, like I said, on the book by John Maxwell, which is the 5 levels of leadership. So let's have a look at what he says in the book, and more importantly, how his concept can help us sort of self-calibrate where we stand with vis-a-vis leadership. Yeah. So his concept, or the 5 levels he talks about, are on your screen. So he says that we have to necessarily move from level 1 to level 2, level 3, then level 4, level 5. And we cannot directly go to level 2, or we cannot directly go to his level 3, or we can't go. And he says moving from 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 is really difficult. but you can actually fall from 3 to 2 or 2 to 1 in an instant, yeah, very easily. So very quickly, let's see what he says. He says, level 1 is position. You're a leader by rights. People follow you because they have to. Level 2 is permission. It's relationship. People follow you because they want to. Level 3 is production, based on results. People follow you because of what you have done, for the organization, for the school, or for the institution, and so on. Level 4 is people development, which means reproduction. People follow you because of what you have done for them. And level 5 is pinnacle, which is respect. People follow you because of who you are or what you represent. Yeah. Let's have a look at these levels. So level 1 is about rights. Yeah. This is the lowest level of leadership. You're probably here vis-a-vis some position, designation, or some power or influence that you have. Yeah. And it is based on this that you are able to lead. Level 1 also talks about how you use your position or your influence, etc., and gain a foothold. You need to rely on rules, regulations, etc. Position or rights. People follow us based on the influence that we wield vis-a-vis our position. We may be a boss, yeah. We might have a designation, and most of us will need to rely on rules, regulations, policies, organization charts to control people. We usually have difficulty working with these kinds of people, like for example, volunteers, younger people, because the designation doesn't give us influence over them. These types of people tend to be more independent. Yeah. So you're getting the drift. Yeah. When a person who's a leader vis-a-vis position or rights is sort of relies on existing rules, systems, regulations that the organization runs on. Yeah. In order to be a leader, man must have followers. And to have followers, a man must have their confidence. Hence, the supreme quality of a leader is unquestionably integrity. Yeah? Without it, no real success is possible, no matter whether it's on a section gang or football field, or in the army, or in an office. If a man's associates find him guilty of phoniness, if he lacks forthright integrity, yeah, therefore, the first great need is integrity and high purpose. I think level 1 then relies on these aspects of leadership. This is General Dwight Eisenhower, who was the Allied commander of he was the supreme commander of the Allied forces, and he was in World War II. And he was also the president of the United States twice. Yeah? Next, permission, relationships. Based entirely on relationships, people follow you because they want to. Yeah? They start liking you. People start treating you as you treat people as individuals. Influence develops with trust. Yeah? One example, Mother Teresa. Do not wait for leaders. Do it alone. Yeah? This is sort of a person-to-person kind of a leadership. The agenda is getting to know people. You're always figuring out how to get along with them, who the people are, who their leaders are. People here, leaders build solid, lasting relationships. So again, the focus here is on increasing loyalty and mutual trust, and a foundation of an enjoyable working atmosphere and team spirit will automatically emerge, yeah, when you're a permission-driven or relationships-driven sort of a leader. So a thought, therefore, when a general gets too far ahead of his troops, he will often be mistaken as the enemy. Here, everyone wants to be liked, cared for, included, valued, and trusted. So for those of us trying to build on our permission and on relationships, we need to show genuine interest in our colleagues on a personal level. We'll We need to make sure that we complement them on their personal strengths. And generally, people go along with their leaders in this level because they get along with them very well. The downside, which I would like to highlight here, is sometimes having a relational workplace does not automatically mean that you can lead to achieve results. Some leaders may be tempted to stop there. For instance, sometimes having a relational workplace can actually get in the way of results. Yeah? If leaders stop at level 2, then they'll have this challenge to deal with. Level 3, production, results. Good leaders don't just create a pleasant working environment. At the end of the day, it's about getting things done. Yeah? Results need to come. So here the leaders then uh, gain influence and credibility. They are followed because people see that the work is getting done around this person. Morale improves, profits or benefits or however you see it goes up. Goals, aims, tasks, etc. Tasks get done, goals are achieved, so on and so forth. So here you'll see that the leaders gain influence and credibility based on their ability to actually close things, get work done. People follow you because they see that okay, this person actually can make decisions and get things moving. Leaders can be, here then become also can move towards becoming change agents because they can face thorny issues, they can make tough decisions, they can pull through problems, and they can take their people to another level of effectiveness. So therefore your change agents angle also starts building in when you're on level 3. Maxwell says to help people grow, you should help them allocate their time accordingly. Now, 80% of the time, the tasks are within their strength zone. Another 15% of the time are on tasks within their learning zone. 5% on work outside their strength zone, and 0% within their weakness zone. So here, Maxwell is actually telling us on how we should allocate tasks for our subordinates. We should ensure that 80% of the time that our subordinates spend should be working within their strengths. 15% of the time is on tasks which is within their learning zone. Another 5% is outside of their strengths. We should ensure that they are not within their weaknesses. Again, there are, there is a school of thought which says no. We should encourage our followers to develop on their weaknesses. See, I think what Maxwell is trying to show us is that there are certain, you know, uh, certain aspects which we generally term as weakness cannot actually be, substituted. For instance, you can't expect a fish to become an expert in climbing trees. You can't expect a monkey to be able to, swim in the depths of water. So therefore, there are certain inherent weaknesses which may or may not be able to be broken that easily. Therefore, I think he's trying to cover in the previous step where he says 5% of our work to be outside of our strengths. Here I think he's indicating that we should encourage our people to come out of their comfort zones, take on things that they're not comfortable with. Yeah? So I think that's how he's balancing these areas. The reason most people aren't producing is either of these aspects, either one of these aspects. If you feel that somebody is not really producing results or is not really up there, it's either a short, they're found wanting in one of these aspects, which is either self-discipline, work ethic, organizational skills, and skill sets to be productive. So self-discipline, self-explanatory, work ethic, again, not in the integrity aspect, but work ethic meaning they're simply not giving it their 100%, simply not following through. That could be the indication. The organizational skills, meaning there are certain skills that everyone needs to have vis-a-vis the organization that you work. Yeah, and then there are certain skill sets that you need to be productive. Productive, for instance, time management, etc. They come in certain skill sets that help you be productive. The downside of this level is when the leader leaves the team, the results diminish because the team was then totally dependent on that leader. Yeah. Again, here there can be a tendency of personal needs are not being met first. When people will never be able to achieve positive results in the long run. If they start feeling that their personal needs are being ignored. And the third downside of this level is, in most cases, this is where burnout takes place. Yeah, when results start taking more importance over people, you will see a lot of burnout taking place in this stage. People development or reproduction, leadership based on reproduction, self-explanatory. They use their position, relationships, and productivity to invest in their followers. They develop them, and the result is reproduction. Meaning level 4 leaders are able to reproduce more people like themselves in the organization. So they have the ability to create highly productive teams, highly productive departments, highly productive organizations. Good leaders in level 4 invest their time, energy, money, and thinking into growing others as leaders. Yeah. So one caution is to delegate, not to dump. Delegate task when somebody else can do the same level task with 80% or more of efficiency. Put only 20% focus on personal productivity, 80% on developing leaders. The biggest challenge is putting other people's personal growth before your own. Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy. The challenge here is putting other people's personal growth before ourselves. Two things always happen on level 4. First, the teamwork goes to a very high level. The high investment in people deepens relationships. They get to know each other better and this strengthens loyalty. Second, performance increases. There are more leaders on the team and they help to improve everybody's performance. Yeah? Level 5 leadership. Level 5 leaders long to leave a legacy. Yeah? A good leader is a compass in the head and magnet in the heart. Level 5 leaders are one that spend their time creating leaders that create more leaders. Yeah. So therefore, self-explanatory, a level 5 leader must be good at all other 4 levels. And he'll have a high degree of skill and will have some natural ability as well. So yeah, so I think these are the 5 levels. Pinnacle leaders, they stand out in a crowd, they're cut above, they bring success wherever they go, they lift up as many leaders as they can, they tackle challenges, they extend their influence, make a positive difference beyond just their own organization. Yeah? So there you have it, the 5 different levels. I thought will put us through what it looks like. A couple of very important points in transitioning between these levels. You can move up a level, but you can never leave the previous one behind. You may move up, but you can never say that, okay, once I've completed level 1, I can forget about it. That does not happen. Yeah, you can whenever you move to level 2, or if suppose you move to level 3, you have to keep level 1 and 2 also in mind. You're not on the same level with every person. Yeah. Different people will require you to be at different levels with him or her. The higher you go, the easier it is to lead. And the higher you go, the greater the return. And the higher you go, more time and commitment is required with at a level. Moving up levels occurs very slowly, but going down can happen in an instant. Moving farther up always requires further growth. No climbing the level limits you and your people. When you change positions or organizations, you seldom stay at the same level. At most of the time, you're back to level 1. You cannot climb levels alone. Yeah. So these are some aspects you need to keep in mind when you're looking at the 5 levels of leadership. Now, for those of us who would like to, sort of do a small self-calibration exercise, let's see how good are we on time. Okay. So very quickly, for those of us who would like to do a small self-calibration exercise, here it is. There are a couple of, I'm going to flash a couple of statements, 10 statements each for each level. And if you're, make a note or choose the statements that you agree with. Please use your first instinct only. Do not go back and change your responses. And we'll see how it goes. Yeah. So the instructions for you are just make a note or choose statements that you agree with. Just keep a count of the number of statements that you agree with. And please go with your first instinct only. Level 1. Here are 10 statements. Just read through the statements and see which are the statements that you agree. Just keep a count of how many you agree. Okay, I assume we've all had a chance to read through the statements, and we've counted on the number of statements out of 10 that we agree with. Yeah. Before I go to level 2, see, ideally, if you find that the number of statements that you agree with are 8 or more, you are okay to move to the next level. If you feel the number of statements you agree with are less than 8, then you still have work, or you still have development areas, or you still have, to work on your level 1 as a leader. Yeah. So similarly, level 2 questions. Just have a look at this. Again, same thing applies. If there are 8 or more, then you can start focusing on next level. If they are less than 8, then you need to continue to focus on the same level. I'll give you a pause so that we can all read the questions and sort of tally on how many we agree with. Okay, again, I hope you've got the count of the number of statements that you agree with. Like I said, your cutoff is 8. If you agree with 8 or more, then you can start focusing on the next level. If you agreed with only less than 8, then you need to invest a little more bandwidth, a little more energy in your current level. Yeah. Level 3 questions on your screen. Same pattern. Have a look at them. Try to see how many you agree with. Okay. Those were the set of questions for level 3. Moving forward, we're going into level 4. Again, here are a set of 10 statements for level 4. Do have a look at them, read through, try to see how many you agree with. Same instructions as before. Please record your first impressions. Don't spend too much time on the statements. Just record your first impressions. Okay. I hope you will be able to record number of statements here that you agree with. Moving to level 5 statements. Again, same instructions as before. Here they are on your screen. Well, those were the questions for level 5. And like I said in the beginning, the instructions are, the idea is to just see which all statements you agree with. And this is not necessarily a yardstick, sort of hammered in stone. It is just a sort of a dipstick which will help you understand where we are. It's not necessarily the end or whole and soul of it. It's just to help us sort of get a small view to the inside of ourselves. Yeah. So like I said, 8 or more, you can focus your energies on the next level. 8 or less, you need to focus on on this present level. Yeah. So I thought here is where we'll pause and we'll take questions from the audience, if there are any. Yeah. So if there are any questions, anyone, any thoughts, more importantly, perspectives. I'm very happy to take questions from anyone, if there are any. You can probably state your question aloud along with your name, or if you prefer typing it, however you want. I apologize. I have a feedback saying that I was not loud at some point of the talk. I'm really sorry. I'm just seeing the feedback. Yeah. And I really apologize if there is a particular part which is not clear or was not audible. Just let me know. I'll be happy to run through it again. I have a statement here, or a question, which talks about how do we develop our communication skills. It's from somebody with an initial AP. I'm not sure of the full name. I think it's Miss Anushka Pawar, if I'm not wrong. Thank you for your thought, for your question. See, communication skills, a program on communication skills is an entirely different chapter when it comes to leadership. At this level, communication is not necessarily bound by the language or the words we use. It's more about the content of our message and how we deliver it. So, see, they say the biggest or the first step or the biggest chunk to master or to begin your journey in developing your communication skills is to focus on your active listening, or your ability to listen. Most of us, there is a tendency, most of us listen just to, to respond or to react. But it's very difficult to actually listen, to absorb. Yeah. So it's a very subtle statement, but it has a very huge difference. So for those who would like to develop or begin your journey on developing your communication skills, look up exercises on how you can increase active listening. Yeah. So that's one area where from where you can begin to develop the communication skills. Otherwise, communication in itself is a big chapter. Maybe we can look at having another session on that at an appropriate time. Thank you, Ms. Anushka Pawar. Anyone else, you can unmute yourself and state your question.
Good evening, sir. I'm Vidyapeetham.
Good evening, ma'am.
There was this one particular slide where you tried to explain, the different levels of interaction, and then how things change within it, or how we should be able to achieve, even if we keep going to a higher level, right? That particular concept was a little gray for me. If I could see the slide again, that will be very good.
Of course, ma'am. Of course. I think after we spoke about the levels, we were. Are you referring to one moment? Let me share my screen.
I'm referring to how we interact with when we move up.
Is the slide that's on your screen what you're referring to?
That's right.
Okay, I'll go through these statements a little slowly once again. These statements are intended to indicate how how people at how the levels interact with each other. Not people, but like how how you move from one level to the other level and other level to the level below, and what happens when this movement actually happens. So I'll just go through the statements again.
So if I could interrupt you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So I think first two are pretty clear, right? The third, higher you go, the easier it is to lead, and the higher you go, the greater the return. Perhaps I don't have the right concept.
Understood. See, ma'am, what John Maxwell says is that if you look at his level 1 and level 2, or in fact, if you just look at level 1 per se, he's kind of stressing about, you're already it's not like you're beginning your leadership journey. John Maxwell's levels are take into consideration that we are all established leaders in some form. So it's level 1 itself, if you look at it, he says that you already have reasonable influence, vis-a-vis a position or a designation, and you're already aware of how the organization works, and you know how to, sort of influence control. So therefore, what he says is the challenge of leadership is greater when you're at the lower levels, and the challenge of leadership slowly starts, becoming more fun or becoming more pleasant or becoming, probably that's what he means when he says it becomes more easy as you go up. So it's from that perspective that John Maxwell is actually talking about. Most of us, even when I read the book for the first time, I sort of was scratching my head at this statement when I said, how is that possible? But you need to consider that people at level 1 are not necessarily first time leaders, or who are just getting into it. They themselves, even at level 1, they are established leaders. But when you look at it from that perspective, it starts making sense, because you'll notice level 1 leaders will spend a lot of time on procedures, a lot of times in actually chasing people, and those kind of areas. Whereas when you look at people at level 4 or a level 3, or even a level or even a level 5 for that matter, they've already gained that depth of trust, etc. So therefore, getting a message across, getting things done becomes that much more, systemized. So maybe that's the view that John Maxwell holds on this. Greater the return, as he believes that as and when you go higher up on the ladder, the more more productivity, or the more you're getting, more you're closer to getting bigger chunk of things done. So I think that's the area from where John Maxwell is arguing that the higher you go in his levels, the greater the return. Therefore, then if you look at level 5, your personal return, you're then at a self-actualization level where you're actually recognized not just in your industry but across industries as well. So probably that's the area where he's trying to that's the area that he's trying to present. I hope I've sort
Yes,
of done justice,
yes,
ma'am.
thank you,
But
sir.
again, it is a gray area, ma'am. I completely agree
Yeah.
with you. It's
So,
a
I
gray
mean,
area.
very simply, if you are a parent and a leader, I mean, how
Yes,
does it
ma'am.
translate? That's what I was thinking.
Very true, ma'am. Very true. Very true. It's not exactly black and white. I completely agree. Very true. Thank you, ma'am. I'm just going to put the second slide also up. Other statements. If anyone else has missed.
Yes, sir. Very good evening, sir. This side, Dr. Anjali Srivastava. Although I put
Yes.
my question in the chat box, but still I would like to interact. See,
Yes, ma'am.
for every organization, as a leader, I believe that we are having our vision and mission. So it's a very it's a task to bring it everybody on the same platform and to work together. See, it is like there it is mentioned that you have to be different with every people around, and you have to bring them together. As a leader, it is our great job. So how to make them on a equal pace and to grow together? It is like moving further up always require the growth, the furthest growth. So I just want to have your clear thoughts about it.
Uh, uh, if I get it, yeah, there are two drifts that I'm getting, and I would like to understand, to gain a little clarity. Is it about the is it sort of, are you indicating a way towards the organization culture where you want to
Exactly,
sort of
exactly.
bring vision and your vision and mission and merge it to the organization culture,
Yes.
or is it just the communication aspect that we
No, no, it's
that
all
you're referring
about culture because once you have
to, ma'am?
a set culture, then you grow,
Yes,
you
ma'am.
know.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm talking about the culture to be floated and floated among all so that we may work on the one direction. We work.
ma'am, then here's another question. Is this a vision and a mission change that you're looking at, or is it, or was the vision and mission, like for example, the institution that I come from, Amrita Vidyapeetham,
No.
the vision and mission has always been there from the beginning. Yeah?
Yes, sir.
Or are you looking at an organization where the vision and mission underwent a certain change? Yeah.
No,
so what is the?
I'm very clear. Vision and mission should not be changed, but there should be a culture to be upright.
So then, if I may ask you, if the vision and mission was there from day one, or from the time the institution came into being, like Amrita Vishwa, like the institution that I belong to, why would you feel that it has not been percolated, or it has got eroded in the last few years or
See,
over time?
sometimes what happens, you understand the vision and mission, but when it comes to to lead a team, we need a more clarity. So as a leader, it is my responsibility to impart the same thought and the same vision and mission to the team with whom I am working. And we have to set a good culture.
Connect again.
Yes.
उसमें तो होता था गूगल मीट में, इसमें फिर
But ma'am, wouldn't that get covered in a strong sort of onboarding and induction process, where when anyone who comes into the organization gets immediately aligned with the existing vision and mission?
Mm-hmm. But
So
sometimes they may take the time, as it is mentioned there, that you cannot be, every people, we have to set a different pace, and then accordingly we move.
I won't say there's your answer, but there's your, that's a very strong thought, a very a strong piece of perspective, ma'am. Thank you. It sort of gives all of us a guide there. So therefore, then when we are, when we are interacting with anyone who joins, like for example, if I have a vision and a mission for something, and the first person who joins me, I ensure I take that amount of time, I ensure the process, and I ensure that my vision and mission is built into this person who's joined me. And then so on and so forth, as years go by, people who join the organization merge into it in some form. Of course, the other aspect of it is the communication part, where the mode and method of how you communicate this to top and down. But like I said, that's a separate chapter in itself. But I think there we have it, ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am, for interacting. It's a real pleasure.
Thank you so much,
ma'am. Thank you so much. If there are any other questions or any other thoughts, experiences that probably we all could join hands and seek clarity. The standard practice that I follow is I wait for about 10 seconds of silence. If there are no other questions, then we'll thank everyone. So if there are any questions, now is the time. Anyone can unmute yourself and raise your question. Well, if there are no questions, anyone has any thoughts, any questions at a later stage, you're most welcome to sort of interact with us and share your questions. I'll be more than happy to revert.
I would request you to put your email ID in the chat, so that if anyone has a question,
yes, of course. Hold on. Let me just type out an email ID.
Please do.
I'll put it in the chat. Okay. Here's email ID. I'll also put a phone number in case anyone is interested. I'll be more than happy to hear your perspectives on the discussion, on the topic that we were talking about today. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.